Is it too late to start the game? Should I come back now? These are questions I see and hear a lot, and today I hope to be able to answer them. Since we now have multiple versions of World of Warcraft across the game, I will be answering as much as I can for each, those being TBC Classic first, Season of Mastery next, and a short bit on Classic Era at the end in case there is somebody out there interested in that. You pick which ones you want to hear about or all of them to get a general sense of the game. You do you. Throughout these, I'll be breaking down what are the main barriers to getting back into Classic and letting you know how each of these points are looking at this particular point in time. Those will be: how progressed is the game? When is it expected to end? What will happen next? How is my server? Will you have to transfer? How long will it take to get into the endgame content? And how is the leveling scene in general? How fast can I gear and catch up with the current raid tier players? And will I be able to find a guild? You know what, before we started the video, I wanted to put this out there for a while. There's this crazy trick you can do in this one cave that I swear nobody knows about. You go to the back here, stand on this rock facing north, and then jump and use a noggin fogger and...
Raid Shadow Legends.
You've probably never heard of this game, Raid Shadow Legends. It's a free-to-play mobile or PC game that you can use my QR code on screen or links below to download yourself. It's a huge lore-filled world with hundreds of champions and loads of boss encounters to try. One of them I'm here to break down today is Silviana, Guardian of the Spirit Keep. Think of the Dreamwalker fight in ICC, but kind of the opposite and a lot less scaly. Each time she gets a turn, she will restore up to half of her HP and will deal bonus damage the more health she has left, so you're going to need a team that can keep healing debuffs active. But she can also block debuffs though, so you're going to need an offensive buff removal as well. Have those in your party and she will be no problem. Two of the things I think are relatable to Raid as a WoW player is how you can gradually gain power on your champions over time so that they can overcome a wide variety of encounters, as well as learning what kind of parties work best together to overcome challenges. Raid's got loads happening this month with a fresh rotation on the brutal Hydra boss and tons of events and tournaments every single day. There's really never been a better time to get started, and if you use my link or scan the QR code right here, new players will get a free starter pack worth almost $30 to kickstart your game, a free champion, Vergis, 200k silver, 1 XP boost, 1 energy refill, and 1 ancient shard so you can summon an awesome champion as soon as you get in game. You'll find your rewards here in your inbox for the next 30 days. Thank you to Raid for the sponsor. Let's begin with the live Classic expansion, the Burning Crusade Classic. So how progressed is the game? Out of a 5-phase content release schedule, we just had phase 3 release, and that being the start of tier 6, Black Temple and Mount Hyjal. The 2 remaining content phases will be Zul'Aman Man, and finally the Isle of Quel'Danas and the Sunwell. PvP season 3 has also just begun. When will this expansion end? At this point there has been no word from Blizzard, and there won't be for some time, but based off previous patch durations and estimates, I think TBC Classic will conclude either at the very end of 22 or spring 2023. I have done a more in-depth video on this subject if you are interested. What will happen next? At the end of TBC Classic, again unconfirmed, but there's no real reason you should think otherwise, we should expect to get Wrath of the Lich King. Keep in mind you're going to need to be at least level 68 to begin Northrend questing or have a level 55 character on your account in order to create a Death Knight. Though these days Blizzard offers a paid boost of 58, so even if you have never played any version of Classic, you should just be able to do that instead. There will be similar paid opportunities for Wrath of the Lich King too, I am more than just sure about that. How will your server be looking, and do you have to transfer? So servers are likely to be one of the biggest changes you experience coming back to the game now, through no fault of your own, but you might just have picked a server at the start or when you played the game which has now died. And I don't mean died in a hyperbolic, oh no I read somewhere it's dead or whatever. I mean actually dead. Everybody has left it and you won't be finding any group content anytime soon. Many players have chosen to transfer to a handful of huge servers or have left their original one because of faction imbalance. I'd recommend checking the publicly available website ironforge.pro to gauge your current server's population. This site draws info from Warcraft Logs and arena games done per week, so people engaging in endgame content. It won't tell you the full story, we don't have any metric to measure absolutely everybody, but I think it does a fairly good job in painting you a picture which you can base your decision off. Blizzard frequently offer free transfers from small servers to more populated ones, which are located under the shop in-game, so you can see what your options are there. If there's nothing which you like, then you have to pay for a transfer. Not the best situation, but that's how things have gone in the Burning Crusade, and I'd imagine it will only continue this way moving into Wrath. How long will it take to get into the endgame content? How is the leveling at the moment? It's not the best, if I'm being honest. If you're watching this closer to the Wrath of the Lich King launch, or after it's been announced, I think you can discount this and things will be fairly active, but right now, not so much. However, if you don't mind leveling as purely a solo player or you're on one of the mega servers that exist, it's actually fine. On the launch of TBC, Blizzard added a bunch of changes from patch 2.3 to make leveling in Classic much faster, 30% or so give or take, and it ramps up the closer you get to level 60. It's not super noticeable early on, but it does become later. If you did want to group up a lot where you're leveling, or you're not on the server with a huge population, it's pretty bad though. Players are still able to boost through in-game means. Moreover, at the start of TBC, Blizzard started selling a character boost to level 58. These two things combined have made the 1 to 58 journey very lonely, and the 58 to 70 isn't overall much better. This extends the dungeon content as well for the TBC servers. Just don't expect much of it back in the old Classic world. If people aren't skipping the dungeons, it's easy to out-level them with experience buffs. For Outland, the dungeons are more active because they're more conveniently placed, though as per usual, it's hard to find tanks and healers when you're leveling. How fast can you gear up and catch up with the current raid tier players? So let's say you have a level 70, how is your catch up looking? Well, with each new content patch, achievements for the previous raid are being removed. There are incentives to do heroic dungeons through the dailies, and the entry raid content such as Karazhan, Magtha or Gruul are all very accessible. Serpent Shrine Cavern and Tempest Keep are a little harder but have been nerfed now. On top of this, none of this content requires an achievement to enter anymore. At this point in time, however, since Black Temple and Mount Hyjal are the current tier, you're going to need to do all of this stuff if you want to set foot inside of either raid. There is a very large raiding population on TBC servers, and even pugging seems fairly active if you get involved and join some discords. Most runs are either SR, which stands for Soft Reserve, which often use the Loot Reserve add-on to reserve one item. If this item drops, you and any other people who have reserved it can roll on it. Other than this, there's often GDKPs on the larger servers where players bid with gold on item drops instead of rolling. A warning for TBC and how easy it will be to catch up on gear though. Finding pugs and raids as a whole depends quite a bit on your class and spec. I don't want to scare you off, but some classes just have a much easier time of finding raid spots. We can take a look at Warcraft Logs and how many passes have been logged for each class and spec. This isn't indicative of performance for each class, but how desirable they are to have in your raid or to stack them in your raid. Side note here, for mages, I'm kind of surprised there are this many arcane mages. Usually they are not stacked this much, but they're a very popular choice at the moment as a strong DPS class. For PvPers, a starter blue set can be bought through Honored Reputations with a number of different factions. You should get this whilst you level. Season 1 gear is available for Honor or through Tier 4 tokens at your vendor in Shattrath, and Tier 2 gear for Arena points is available with no rating requirements. Overall, week on week, there's a ton of content being run by many guilds, and a lot of not BIS gear is being passed or disenchanted every day. As long as you put some work into pre-BIS, I don't think catching up on gear is actually too hard at all in TBC. There is also badge gear which will help you catch up faster. However, right now there's not too many incentives to be running heroic dungeons, as the achievements which needed you to run them have been removed from the game now. In Phase 4, with the release of Zul'Aman, there's going to be more gear added to badge vendors, so people may be more incentivized to run heroics at that point in time, but right now they are not very active. Finally, guilds. You don't have one, but you want one. Will that be hard to do? Well, remember the ABC of guilds. Always be recruiting. Guilds are always on the lookout for players. It depends on your class. Again, some are just more in demand than others, and how large your server is going to impact this as well. Tier 6 has just dropped though, so you bet a load of people have just come back to the game, and coming back now and expecting to get Warglaives on your rogue, well, that just might be a bit of a tall order. Still, I think getting a guild isn't an issue ever if you are looking in the right place. So that is TBC. Next, Season of Mastery. How progressed is the game? So SOM was planned to have a 12-month duration Exploration Total. It came out on the 16th of November 2021 and has recently released its Phase 3 Blackwing Lair. It has 6 content phases planned overall, Phase 4 being ZG, Phase 5 AQ40, Phase 6 Nax. As of doing this video, it has about 9 months left. What happens next? After SOM ends, Blizzard have confirmed your characters will move to Classic Era servers. I have a feeling they may open up more options at a later date. This isn't confirmed or anything, it just seems common sense that somebody playing there might want to play Wrath of the Lich King or TBC or just a different version of WoW once it's all over. How is your server and will you have to transfer? Much like TBC, players have congregated onto a handful of big servers. Recently, Blizzard opened up free transfers, which again you can access via the shop button. Check Ironforge.pro to work out where people are playing and see what seems right for you. There are currently no paid transfers for Season of Mastery. How long will it take to get to Endgame? How is leveling in general? Okay, leveling then. It's still pretty good. There seems to be a lot of interest in the more casual play for Season of Mastery, despite the whole name and mastering the raids. SOM has an XP modifier that Blizzard recently increased to award 100 bonus XP and gold for quest completion. Dungeon and elite quests give a burst of XP on top of this. This XP buff used to not affect gold whatsoever and was 40%. So this change has brought a lot of new people back to Season of Mastery. But it is a seasonal server and it's on the clock though, so don't expect it to be this way forever. When I checked for the video on a Season of Mastery realm which showed a raiding population of under 3k, it had more people leveling than a TBC server with over 30k. That's how different the leveling to raiding population is between the two different servers. Leveling dungeons still see a fair bit of activity. Blizzard has also implemented an LFG tool for Season of Mastery that allows players to search for others. Endgame dungeons are kind of just like Classic, which means you can never find a tank when you need one. Okay, so how's the catch up for Season of Mastery and getting into raiding? Well, there isn't anywhere near as much pugging as there is in TBC, and I think you do kind of need a guild if you want to play. The boss for Endgame dungeons is LFM Tank, and despite the season focusing changes around raids, there is a very small raiding population when compared to either what it was in Classic or what it currently is in TBC. The raiding is consumable heavy, but Blizzard have both increased the number of ways to get consumes as well as made alchemists be able to proc extra crafts once they are capped out, much like it works in TBC. Which leads on to talking about, will you be able to find a guild? Yes, you need 40 players. The new 60 guy with a few items of prebis is better than nothing. Recruitment will be very active. It's not so much the questions of how fast can I catch up or finding a raiding guild, but it's more, are you actually willing to put in the time to farm out gold again for the consumables which are required to raid? So that's Seasonal Mastery. Let's do Classic Era real quick. So I'm not going to do a full breakdown for each question because there just isn't enough to talk about here, but in case anybody was interested, I'm just going to give you the basics here. Imagine it's a server frozen in time on the final patch of Classic, a fully progressed server. It's all about the endgame content. There are a handful of guilds still playing per region. If you really wanted to play, I would go on to Warcraft Logs, find who raids on whichever server you're on, and just message people there that you are interested. There really isn't a huge amount of info to go through. I would bet they have some spaces to fill each week if people are keen. Think of it as a server only for raiding, but with zero convenience measures to actually get people into raiding or gearing or access to consumes faster. That's it then. TBC, Seasonal Mastery, and Era. I hope I helped out if you're considering making a start or a comeback. Overall, I think TBC is still very much worth a go, especially if you plan to play Wrath. You're going to need a character, aren't you? I think Seasonal Mastery is good for some casual fun, but time really isn't on your side with that server. And as for Classic Era, well, I'm not really sure if many people are asking these questions in the first place. That is everything from me today though. Thank you all so much for watching and listening in, and I shall see you all on the next one very soon.